Hey everyone, welcome to SLP's Wine and Cheese. I'm Deb.
I'm Maria.
And here's our podcast. We'd love to welcome our guests from SLP Toolkit.
Tell us your name.
So I'm Sara.
I'm Lisa.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming all the way here to my apartment. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we flew in from Phoenix for this. This is amazing.
Just
We
for this
took
one event.
8 trains, 4 subways, walked 4 miles from Queens to get here.
In the rain.
There was a rainbow at the end.
Right.
So there you go.
The end of most stories, there might be one.
There was a literal rainbow.
Right,
I
yeah.
actually did see a rainbow, which is great.
Yeah, literal and metaphorical rainbow. Because I think we are the metaphorical rainbow at the end of the journey.
That's right.
Yes. But then there was a real...
And it's just funny. Everybody keeps apologizing for the rain, but we're from a desert. So
This is awesome.
the rain, even of itself, is like actually a tourist site for us.
Right. So, like, you just see rain and think hope.
I open my mouth, I take a drink. I feel like they're the tears of Jesus. I just take it.
Good. That's good. That's good. It probably is.
Speaking of drinking, right? Let's go right to our wine and cheese that we're drinking today. So we have very fancy wine from Wolffer Estate. I hope I said that the right way again. And it's Sauvignon Blanc 2016. And I've actually...
The correct pronunciation.
Yeah, tell me. Help me here.
Sauvignon Blanc.
I have a confession. Every time I order this wine at a restaurant, I'm so nervous to order it. I'm like, please someone else say it so I could just be like, I'll have this.
Yeah.
With my filet mignon.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like anytime I will not put any effort into maintaining an accent. So just like the last episode where I said calamari and mozzarella, this is a Sauvignon Blanc.
Right. I'm going to try to be culturally sensitive, I think, to the French, and I'm going to say,
Or to the people from Long Island.
right. Yes, Sauvignon Blanc 2016. And I've actually had the pleasure of going to this vineyard, this winery. It's in the Hamptons. I went for a bachelorette party, and I totally recommend that because...
Wait a minute. I'm really confused as an out-of-towner. The Hamptons is Long Island?
Yes, is it?
Yeah, it is a very long island.
They aren't lying when they call it long.
Loved it. And we went there, and it was such a nice, like, bachelorette party. You know, we went there, we had our wine, we took our pictures in the vineyard. You know, we partied up at night. Yeah, it was such
very nice.
So I totally recommend
Well,
that.
we know about the Hamptons. Summer House is filmed there. It's a lovely show on Bravo. And doesn't P. Diddy have a white party?
Wait, that's so funny you just mentioned it because when we went last year, they were filming some type of show. I don't know if it was that show, but it was. They were filming there.
Bravo. I mean, anything Bravo
Yeah, it
is
was.
acceptable.
But they were, and I was trying to get free drinks out of them too. I was like, "Oh, do you need me to be an extra?" And they just ignored me. So I clearly wasn't pretty enough.
No,
Anyway,
that's not it. They were at their production limit. And you know what? TV shows and movies are nonsense. Celebrities, not that cool. Telling you. For real. Yeah.
just go over the cheese that we have with it. I'm gonna try again. We're having it with Gruyere cheese. Gruyere cheese, and it pairs very well and accentuates the nuttiness in the cheese. This wine, yeah. Well, the wine is very light for anyone who's interested. It's very light wine and has a fruity aftertaste. So, it or drink it.
Oh, I say drink it.
Drink it.
Drink it. Did you guys taste the wine?
didn't, but from the looks of it, I say.
Yeah, you know, these SLP Toolkit ladies,
That's what I say.
they don't like wine. So
I actually love wine.
Oh.
It just gives me a migraine, and since we're doing presentations this
Right.
week, I have to be like on my A game.
you're looking out for your future self.
For tomorrow.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
But they are drinking, like, don't think they're straight edge. They are drinking Brooklyn Sriracha Ale, which is my favorite Brooklyn Brewery beer. And that's the reason why I chose it.
It's got hints of grapefruit and black currant.
And we are pairing it with cheddar. Kraft
I'm
cheddar
putting
cheese.
straight up cheese whiz right in my mouth right now as we speak. Like just straight from the can.
We do it in
Yeah, now we're going to move on to dysphagia. We're going to talk about puree consistencies. Just kidding. No.
Are you gonna chew a cracker and put it in the shape of a chicken leg?
Because I do know this is a serious topic, but I went into the schools for a reason, and that's because you can't kill anybody with articulation therapy. I cannot help you when it comes to swallowing.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm totally kidding. But, I mean, I work in the nursing home setting, and I guess that was my initial fear. And then you just take it one step at a time.
You know, after a couple people die, you're like,
Yeah, you're
learned
like-
a lot from that. It's just one step at a time.
That's how baptism by fire.
I get very. I think, like Sarah said, I honestly, like, working in the schools, I'm like, even I used to tell my grad students, you're not going to hurt anybody. Like, this is
That's
just,
good advice.
we're learning, and so I haven't done anything with adults since college, which, you know, as we already talked about, was back in, like, the 60s.
During Vietnam.
The Vietnam War. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't get it. That's next on our list after two other. Wait, no, we have three things before we get to the Vietnam War. So the first thing, so you ladies have invented a wonderful online system called SLP Toolkit. Could you tell us about that and the listeners as well?
Well, I will tell you that we have been presenting all week at the Queens district, or the districts in Queens.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you sick of talking about this?
No.
No.
Because, like, I'm pretty sure Mick Jagger has sang Satisfaction more than you have talked about SLP Toolkit.
This song sucks. I just want to sing Happy Birthday.
No, but where I was going with this is, like, I sit there every time and I hear the same thing. Oh, what? This is new. We don't get these sirens going by.
You know what? I don't know if the microphones will pick that up. They might.
Just there's an ambulance outside. Just this is
I'm sure
Brooklyn.
everyone's fine.
I
Yeah.
watched this on SUV or SVU. What's it called?
Special victims.
Yeah.
They may have been in an SUV and then they were SVU.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
SVU.
I know all about this Law and Order. All right, continue.
Yes.
So where I was going with that is, you know, we've been saying the same thing over and over and over, but I don't get tired of it because even at the end we've been doing a demo where, you know, we do our presentations aren't on the product, it's more just professional development.
Okay.
So that's the morning, and then after lunch we come back and we get to kind of show off SLP Toolkit. And Sarah was going over it today and I'm like, shit, we're like really smart. Like this shit is awesome. And everybody in here, you're welcome. It's a personal extend use to everyone who wants to use it because it freaking will make your life easy.
All right. Well, can you tell us a little bit about it then? Tell us the smart
I think so.
invention.
And
Go
I will
ahead.
say, you know, at first when we first actually created this program, we made it for me because I was kind of a terrible therapist. And so it was a solution to all of the problems that we had as school-based SLPs. And so really the premise of it was we wanted to design something that made progress monitoring less painful. Like those breaks that we have, Christmas and spring break and summer, those are not intended to be used to do your progress reports and paperwork. Those are intended to be a vacation. But unfortunately the reality is progress reports take a long time. And so a lot of the time we're spending outside of a typical workday. And so that was when we first kind of got together. We thought there's got to be a better way to do this. Let's come up with a way to progress monitor like a teacher does. Let's design some tests that allow you to collect data for baseline and then use those same tests for progress monitoring.
Sounds like you were a great therapist if you had that idea. I mean, also I have those moments of clarity too where I'm like, man, I am amazing.
I know.
So
really
and you're just
that was wicked smart.
yeah. I bet you're just thinking that right now after you just did that whole spiel. That was great.
Well, and I think what it comes down to is I am good enough to know when I'm not good.
Right.
And I think that was the difference is I knew what I was weak in. You know, I knew what I really struggled with. What I wasn't really willing to do, though, is admit it a lot of the times. You know, like I hated to be the one to ask questions or, you know, if I really struggled with something, I didn't want to, like, go find out, you know, from my peers what was going on because I honestly thought I was the only one. And so
I think a lot of people share that feeling, though.
I think we do. I think so too. And we talked about this on our podcast just recently about, you know, we're all kind of these type A personalities. And even if you're not type A, you're type A-ish.
A-B, they call it.
Yeah, you can pretend like you're B, but if you got through grad school, you're not.
I pretend like I'm
I don't know. I think I'm B.
I don't know if it's possible.
I'm B. I don't know what B is, but I'm not A. I see people who are A, and I'm like, I'm not that at all.
Get into grad school and finish grad school.
I'm very charming.
It takes more than charm.
Takes more than charm to sleep your way through grad school.
It's a different kind of school.
I have a question. So, because I'm working in the school system, and you said there was some conflicts in the schools, so I'm kind of curious, like which ones, were you seeing that you felt like you wanted to repair or fix?
It all came down to paperwork. That's something that's never
that's
going
a big
away.
one.
We have no options but to write these IEPs, so you can hate them all you want. We
Right.
have no option but to write progress reports, but
Yeah.
you have to write them. And so what we really wanted to do is find a solution to make that process less painful, and to help you feel really confident about the data that you were getting. And
Right.
so I think what it came down to for me is I know I needed a way to just guide my thinking. There's like no possible way I can write comprehensive present levels on every student I work with, right?
Right.
Because their needs vary so significantly between grade levels and need areas. And so I would have these students and I would think, well, shit, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is he supposed to be doing?
That's a real point that a lot of people tend to ignore. They think that, like, you walk into this career as if you're supposed to just look at someone and be like, I have determined that you have apraxia.
Exactly right.
Like, and it's not. And then sometimes, another thing I wanted to clarify, like I said on the first episode that we did, that the majority of my caseload is like quote unquote typically developing.
Yeah.
They are not. They still have IEPs and they're still speech and language impaired. But when those deficits are a little bit more, they're hidden, that you can't see it until you look into their academics. That's what I love about SLP Toolkit, because you have now designated everything that child is required to do or like normed to do at that time, so that you know everything to look for.
Right.
All of the things.
We always talk about, too, in public school, we don't have an option to treat or not treat. You get everything across your doorstep, and you can't say, well, I'm more of a fluency expert, and that's just everything I want to see. That's what clinic is for, and specialties and things like that. So you have this wide range of kids. Sometimes, I know the caseloads here, we found out this week, are like magical to us, because in Arizona, we are funded about, I don't know if it's 49th or 50th in the United States for education. Oh, wow. So it's very sad. And that was our framework, I think, from even when we developed this, was we were not funded. We knew we needed to, you could sit there and wallow about all the things you don't have and how everything sucks. But Sara and I are both, I think, more solution-oriented in nature. Yeah. So that was what really this was born out of, we can't change those things. What can we do instead? And that's where it came from.
Yeah, I totally agree with that perspective too. I think as being a waitress the whole time that I was in school, that like you don't go to somebody with a problem without a solution. You don't just sit there crying about this is wrong, this is wrong. It's like you have to just come up, you have to make it work. And that's what we're about, making it work.
Exactly, with what you have. That's my biggest thing.
Make it work with what you have. And you guys kind of just like, you didn't let any sort of limitation hamper you from being the best service providers that you could be. You were just like, well, we're just going to have to figure out a way to make this work for everybody.
There's nothing wrong with venting.
Right.
I think that's super natural, whether you are in a work setting or a personal setting. You have your people that you vent to, but then there's that very fine line into where you become annoying AF, where everything that comes out of your mouth is just a complaint about something, and then you're not going to get much done, and you're making yourself miserable, and you're bringing everyone down.
Yeah.
And that's your reality.
And
I like-
watch this Real Housewives.
Oh.
Be cool.
Right.
Be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there's always a solution to something, even if it's not like 100% what you want the solution to be. At least you're like, all right, this is not working for me, but at least I can make it like a compromise, pretty much.
And that's what it was like when we developed. So the progress monitoring was the first part of it. And then we realized, well, in order to progress monitor, you actually need goals. You've got to figure out what your treatment goals are.
Right.
You've got to figure out what your treatment goals are. You need some
then in order
kind
to
of
get
an
goals,
assessment.
you need some type
and
of
so that's what it
assessment.
was.
Okay.
Progress monitoring sounds nice,
Yes.
but I need to get there
That's what it was,
first.
is we thought
And so that's where we designed these present level assessments. And that it really came from that idea of we needed a way to be able to get comprehensive information about strengths and needs for that present level section, right? Because that's what's guiding the entire treatment plan. And there was nothing out there. And so Lisa and I laugh all the time because we were like, seriously? Like it was us that was going to come up with this? What the hell?
We're here.
Right. All right.
What's up, Queen?
You're in Brooklyn now?
Oh, yeah. What's up, Brooklyn? and you're just spinning your wheels at that point, you know. Like, and I'm guilty of that. I always have said I'm a materials hoarder, and for a lot of reasons I do like things. But really what it came down to is I was just always trying to fix something, right? I was trying to solve a problem, trying to find an answer, and just really did never have those solutions. And so it's just like, I thought I needed more.
Right.
And then once I kind of found these solutions and these great ways to kind of guide my thinking and scaffold it, you know, SLP Toolkit's never intended to replace clinical judgment. Like, you still have to know what you're doing. But the point of it was to streamline some of that, kind of eliminate
Take
the
the
headache.
pressure off of everything you have to know.
Exactly right.
In this profession.
Yeah, and then that allows you to kind of scale back and get back to what really matters, and that is absolutely providing the best treatment plans for your students, and then and being able to target those skills.
And I think too, like we've had questions before about like, I only use the progress monitoring tools. Can you break it up? And we have had many talks about this, that really it's the whole package of everything you need to do with that student. So we don't want to break it up because you should be using everything.
Yeah.
So do the skills kind of like a hierarchy? Is that what you mean? You don't want to break it up?
So
or?
no, that idea even of like, you know, we started with progress monitoring and then we're like, but then you need goals. So then we developed the goal bank and then we're like, but then how do you pick the goals that you want? So we developed the present level assessments, and then, well, now you have the IEP, so you have to monitor it and take data on it. So then we have a data feature. So it's like,
go big or go home.
Exactly.
It really is.
That's it.
Our
It's like
developers all the time are like, you guys really need to focus. I'm going to need you guys to kind of focus and just pick one thing.
Like,
and
no,
we're like,
they don't understand.
Yeah, you know, it really, this entire product was meant to streamline the most painful parts of our job.
Exactly.
And these were also the guys that wanted us to start with just kindergarten.
Yeah, that's true.
They always say, like, if you ever do any kind of software development, you start like with a small, kind of like a soft pilot of a product. Good. Right. But, you know, focus, but then get your feedback and then, you know, kind of go from there. And so they're like, so just kindergarten. We're like, okay. And then we leave and we're like, so K-12, and let's throw in preschool. Because really, you might need to see it all.
Yeah, but that is an excellent tip to give. Like, just be like, absolutely. I have so many people who message me for advice and they're just like, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. I'm like, well, then just be like, absolutely, not a problem. What's going to happen after that?
Right.
No
and
one's
then
gonna
take a picture of them and throw darts at their face when you get home.
Exactly. But you don't have to, just because somebody has told you to do something doesn't mean that you have to do it.
I don't know. Sarah tells me to do a lot of things and I have to do it or I get in trouble.
Yeah, well, that's because I am the HBIC.
That's her officially. We don't have titles like CEO or CFO. Sarah's just HBIC, and my title is Da Bomb.
Well, you also had a vision for something, and you wanted to see it through the way you envisioned it. So I think you stuck true to what you wanted and what your philosophy.
I mean, like, did we ever in a million years think we were going to be in this place? We're sitting in Brooklyn right now because we were invited to present in Queens. Like, no, this is not what we thought we were going to be. I still thought I would be in a school bitching about all of the staff, but I am not. You know, so yeah. Go ahead.
So what do you think of the East Coast?
Okay, we are obsessed.
Yes. Okay.
And Lisa and I talk about this all the time. No matter where we go, we always want to move there. Like, you know, every city we've ever been to, we're like, this is it. This is home.
This is gonna be it.
And this is no exception.
Until I saw the real estate prices here.
Yeah.
So maybe just not yet.
We don't think we can afford it.
Unless
Nor do we
anyone
think
has
we can handle traffic or
that they want to
parking.
Marry me off to.
Right. But we are obsessed every inch of this beautiful state so far.
So what have you done so far in New York? Well, I mean, aside from going, tell us actually, what do you think of the schools?
Well, and that's what's so funny. It's like everybody's like, so what have you guys been doing? And we're like, well, we went to this incredible school. What are you talking about?
Indoors and made of brick.
And like 4 stories tall.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture that you posted. Yeah, that's what all the schools look like. That's what my school looks like too.
Yeah, so then when I had told the therapist there, I said, oh my gosh, we're just even so happy to be in your beautiful building. They kind of looked at us.
It was history. No, you said something about history. And they're just like, what? And we're like, you understand the city we're from is it just celebrated its centennial.
Right.
They're like a history of malls.
Yeah. Well, and our buildings, you know, they're one story, they're outdoors, they just don't look like this.
They also can't be too high, right, because of the heat? Is that a myth?
No, I don't even know. I just don't
up?
think you need to go up.
Okay.
There's plenty of room to go out. You know? Just like myself. Would you like to talk about that?
That's another topic.
Yes, that's why I'm not drinking the wine, because I'm doing intermittent fasting. And so I'm only eating for 8 hours a day. It sounds a lot. Actually, it sounds hard, and it is.
Wait, so this is going to be all of the Tuesdays? You're going to have one sip? I'm going to be
just
hammered.
On Tuesday?
Or no? You're going to be
hammered. We record on Tuesdays.
It's like the story of Sara and my life. I'm always hammered and she doesn't drink.
I'm going on vacation in about a month, and I need to buckle down. And I'm hearing that it's really good for you. It's good for your metabolism. It apparently shrinks cancer cells. It's supposed to be great for you. So
this is like kind of the newest thing, I
yes.
think. And like Lisa and I are professionals when it comes to dieting because we've done them all. And this is, I have heard there's a lot of research that supports this.
Yes,
and
me
we're
too.
all about EBP here.
Oh,
at
yes.
SLP Cheese and Wine.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wine and cheese.
Wine and
that
cheese.
doesn't even rhyme
Is
the
it
way
wine
you
like
said it.
WH or WI?
It's WI.
It's
We don't want
WI,
to
yeah.
appear like we're whining. We're just talking.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I don't know why I asked that.
So anyway, so going back to the schools in New York, what do you? So you mentioned before about SLP's caseload. So for example, I work in a District 75 special ed school, self-contained, as you called it. I just updated my schedule today, actually, and I have 26 kids on my caseload.
Dream caseload.
Is that
Don't tell the Arizona
yes?
therapists. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you watched the news recently, you may have seen the whole Red for Ed movement in Arizona,
yes.
and that's
Yeah.
because we're funded maybe 49th in the United States for education. SLPs in particular have every district there is kind of city based. So I know like here you guys have New York City with all of the boroughs, and that's why it's so huge. Everything there, it's just like all the little suburbs have their own school district. So
New Jersey is like that, which is a close state to New York.
Yeah.
But it just makes the range of even how salaries look different, caseloads are different, but on average, it's probably 65 is a pretty typical number. We have some friends that live, like there's one district that they're on a teacher scale but receive a $20,000 stipend as SLPs. And so I had gone to one barbecue once where they learned I was an SLP, and they're like, oh, SLPs, you make $20,000 more and work 20% less.
Oh,
And so
no.
there's that kind of like stigma too, where it's, so then it, because in that district with the pay differential, they have like caseloads of about 100
Wow.
because they feel like, well, we're paying you more, so you can just pile on. It's not from the perspective always of what's best for the student, because that's really what the caseload sizes is about, is if it's manageable, then you can do better work with students.
Yeah. And that's when we've learned a lot. We've actually been asking a lot of questions because I'm always curious how special education is done in other locations. And so I love that from what I understand, SLPs here had caseloads of 60 plus 20 years ago.
Well, I actually have like 50 kids
Okay,
myself,
so you
just
do.
me.
You
I
do.
don't have like a student. I don't have a SLPA. It's me. It's
Okay.
just, Deborah Brooks and
Yeah,
50,
I bet it's
maybe
50.
50 kids. She hasn't counted because that's not important. Like, the only time you ever have to, sorry, you don't have to hold this for me, Maria, I'm sorry. I made you do that, a mistake. But the only time that, like, I know how many kids I have is if anybody, like, seriously asks me as just, like, a question in terms of, like, wanting to know about my career. But there's no part of my career that asks me how many kids are on my caseload.
Okay.
So I don't know that offhand, but I do know that when I order prizes, I need at least 50. Oh, there's a problem.
Okay.
So,
'Cause, yeah, that's what
50.
I was told, at least from the districts we've been able to visit and chat with, that they at one point had 60 something and have gotten them down to the 40s and 45 range because of advocating. And I think the difference, obviously, is the unions allow you guys to kind of have more fight than we do back at home. But we're the opposite. Like we had 40, 20 years ago, and now we're up to 65.
Wow.
And so there's got to be some change there, and I don't know what it will take. And again, like a non-union state, what it requires. But you need to have a caseload that's manageable, right? Because how do you provide quality services to that many students?
Right.
I think you actually should run for senator because, McCain is going to be
2019.
I will vote for you.
Senator? Is that don't most people start off as like mayor?
Have we met?
She started at HBIC. She already clarified
right.
that, and now she's supposed to be in charge of Arizona. And you'd be like Elle Woods up in
Yes.
Washington,
Oh,
holding Sparky.
okay.
under
I
your
love
arm.
this. We should just at least write the movie so that it happens.
Sarah Bevier in DC.
So
2019.
you guys said that you love Brooklyn, and you spoke about how like the caseload is a bit like different in terms of Arizona and Brooklyn, or in New York City in general. Maria works for the Department of Education. So she's in like that junior sect, and I work for an agency, so I am
that
not.
might be the difference,
I'm
right?
like an actor.
Kind of like a contract. We call it a contract therapist. Yes. So our contract therapist in Arizona, I almost said in the States. There has been times when I've been here this week where I feel like I'm in a different country.
We call them contract therapists too.
Okay.
We call them I don't call them anything. Just me.
Yeah, so in Arizona we call that a contract therapist, and that's kind of your punishment. We pay you more, but we also give you more students.
Yeah. And it's whatever students can't be picked up by the school, the SLP schools, the schools, the SLPs in the school.
I work at a charter school.
Right.
So
Okay.
there are. So
that's
it's different for me. So,
lot of charters
so
use
you explain
contract.
with the contract worker. I just want to be like, that's not what I do either.
Okay. So I work in the school system, District 75. So if we had extra students, then there's, let's say there's 3 or 4 SLPs in that school, and you have 10 kids who are not being seen because all our schedule is filled, then our supervisor or the administration will call in a company and we'll contract it out.
Yeah.
The
Or
sessions.
maternity leave, or those kinds of things.
Yeah, maternity leave sometimes.
It's incredible.
In Arizona, they use contractors for that purpose as well, but then also for a lot of charter schools use
So
contracted
charter
staff.
schools or.
So yeah, I'm in a charter school, and then I also work at like preschools or home care. My agency has all the contracts for CPSE. In New York City, our special ed is divided into CPSE and CSE.
What is CPS?
CPSE is Committee of Preschool Special Education,
Okay.
and then
That's where
Committee
Sarah
of
would
Special
Yeah,
Education.
I do preschool, yeah.
Oh, I love preschool,
Yeah,
but I
that's my
like
favorite.
both. I do preschool, I do CPSE, CSE, and geriatrics. I work at a nursing home too.
Which is amazing. That makes you very well rounded.
Well, I'm trying because I don't want to be square.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's all.
It's true.
But so I don't have this like romanticized version of an SLP life that like maybe some people might think, like how you said there's a stigma in your school. I don't really have that, but because I'm not hired within the school, so like nobody knows anything about me.
It's
They're
very
just
different.
grateful I arrived.
Right.
Yes.
That's good.
Because then they're out of compliance.
You just show up every morning with your coffee saying, "You're welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes.
The queen is here."
I'm here to take
That's
the kids off
that's
your
exactly
hands.
what I do.
Pretty much.
So then we wanted to talk about, because we've both been to Arizona, so we wanted to talk about how much we loved being in Arizona.
Yes.
Do you want to, you go first.
Okay, so when I went to Arizona, I loved Sedona. I felt like it was so like relaxing. I'm into yoga, so I
Got the
saw like
vortexes in
Yeah.
Sedona.
Yeah, high energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel a difference in the energy?
I thought that was just like me and the people.
No, there's
No,
something.
oh my God.
There's
There
something
is there.
actually to Sedona in the energy fields. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So we did like we rented like buggies and we went hiking. We did something called Devil's Bridge. I don't know if you've heard of that,
Yeah.
but we hiked really really high. My knees were hurting me, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel old. I need to sit down and meditate, which I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So
is a good place to do that.
Next to a cactus
yes,
with
actually,
no water for 4 days.
I'm still gonna
Right.
vote that it's cacti though.
Yeah.
Just gonna
All
bring it
right,
back to
all
that. Sorry.
Don't worry, I'm just a native.
Yeah, but no, we loved when they got to be like on trend. Like all of a sudden, cactus became really cool.
Yes, this year too. I feel like
Yeah,
last
it's
year
a
was
hot thing.
pineapples, right? And now this year
Yeah,
cacti.
It's all about the cacti.
Oh, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Next year's
I saw
flamingos.
cactus shorts.
Judy's gonna be thrilled.
Yeah, it's all about the cacti this year.
Yeah, it's all about the cacti.
And also when
No pineapple.
also you just said that you saw a rainbow in Brooklyn, right? And when I was in
Yeah.
Arizona, we saw a rainbow at the Grand Canyon. So I feel like that's
It's just reciprocal
so right?
rainbow sharing.
Yes, rainbow
Yeah.
sharing. Love it.
So-
So I loved Arizona. What did you think about it?
I really loved Arizona. I went to Arizona in January of a year that was recent, like 2000. I don't know.
It's like such an interesting way to say
2016
it.
or 17.
Back in a year.
Yeah,
that
it
started
was-
with a 2.
it was a
and
recent
ended with a
one.
7.
I went to Arizona, and it was in January, like I said, and just before Mike and I left. So Mike, my boyfriend, is a comedian, so he travels on the road with Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live Weekend Update. So we were going to Arizona in January, which in Brooklyn was a nightmare at this point. It was it was snowy, it was icy, and we had a very early flight. So I was rushing to park my car in Brooklyn, and I had gotten stuck on an iceberg in the street.
That sounds
And
fun.
so like hours before my flight to Arizona, I was like digging my car out of a iceberg. So I, already was very grateful to be in the heat when I arrived. And then once I got there, it was so fun because it was just a whole comedy weekend. So we went to this mansion in the desert that a guy built out of scraps just all around that he could find. No.
I thought you were going to talk about the birthday cake castle.
No. So this is
I don't know about this one.
so we were in like Tempe and Scottsdale.
Okay.
That's where we were.
Scottsdale too. Love Scottsdale.
Scottsdale's pretty cool.
I heard that's where like there's hot moms there and turquoise. That's what I was warned
We're waiting
with.
for our Bravo.
We're hot moms. Yeah, we're hot moms in
Real
Mesa.
Housewives of Scottsdale.
When we went out in Scottsdale, I felt like everyone was so dressed up. We went to the
Yeah, they're
W
pretty
Hotel.
fancy.
They were
The
very
W's
fancy.
super cool. That upstairs bar.
Yeah, that's where we were.
Yeah.
That's
So,
we
yeah.
don't live in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
That's the fancy people.
We're the Real Housewives of Mesa.
Right.
But that's close by. So
Right,
you
yeah,
were
it's
like
all-
by where I was.
Yep.
So this guy, he had created a mansion in the desert based on like materials that he had found at his just wherever he was. And the reason why he lived there was because he was living somewhere like, let's say, New Jersey, and then he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, and the doctor advised him to go move to Arizona where the air is thinner and drier. It'll be easier for you to breathe.
That didn't work for Doc
Completely
Holliday
debunked.
in Tombstone.
True.
So that's what I learned on the tour. It was like complete nonsense. Anyway, so then he got to Arizona, never told his wife or kid, and he got to Arizona and
I'm
he
just
found
coughing up
out.
blood, honey. It's nothing.
No, well, I suppose she didn't get to see that. I don't.
It's just a little cold, honey.
Well, he just skedaddled. They didn't even. Maybe she didn't know that he coughs. She thought he was dead. There's no cell phones. There's no like Find My Husband, Find My iPhone app. So he goes to Arizona, and then if you just claim that you're going to mine on property at this time, then you can own that property. So he was like a miner on the property, but he was building a castle out of scraps.
Wow.
And so now it's a tourist attraction.
Why? I've lived there my whole life. I don't know this story, Deborah.
Well, I'm completely lying to you. I've made all this up. Just to, no, it's real. So then eventually he dies, and he has a lawyer, and the lawyer sends a letter to the wife and the daughter, and they're like, and it says like, just by the way, I didn't die, I didn't vanish. You have a house in the desert of Arizona. Go to the house. You own it now. In a year. Live there for 1 year, and then you can open up the trap door and see what's underneath.
Tell me it wasn't him.
It was him the whole time. Well, no, it wasn't him in the trap door. I don't remember what it was. It was nothing. It wasn't anything good. But that was like one of the fun things I did while I was there.
Isn't that so funny? We were talking about this before, that like when you live in a location, you never do anything cool.
Yes, that's
I've
very
never been to the Statue of Liberty.
Okay, I've never been to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It was so cold when I went, by the
Yeah.
way.
Right, but like I've seen
freezing.
pictures,
Yeah.
so we're good. But I have never heard this story before.
Well, look it up. I mean, I'm
We're
pretty
gonna
sure
have to
I
take
was a good
Tool and
listener.
Kid are gonna have to go on the road and go check that out.
We're actually gonna have to tourist our hometown.
I think we also went to the Wrigley Mansion.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
that's the one I
Oh,
was
I have a
thinking
story
of.
about the Wrigley Mansion from
Okay.
grad school.
Is it quick?
Oh, great, because we're going to
yes,
talk
yes.
about
It's
student life.
amazing. It's actually one of those memories
That'd
that
be
it,
good.
like
she can go on forever.
No, it's fascinating.
Okay.
So in grad school, they had some sort of the wife of whoever owned that mansion was a sponsor for craniofacial disorder, like had this fundraiser and whatever. So I went there with a professor from Arizona State, and so I saw the wife, and she was like one of those probably like 25. Perfect body, tan, big fake boobs and whatever, just like me.
Yes.
Perfect body, big fake boobs. I mean, I know I'm trying to like contain my sexiness in my flannel right now. No, so I'm like, who is this chick married to? Like, I can't wait to see him. And I had seen this like random dude at this party. People are kind of dressed up, and it's this old man with like long greasy hair in a wheelchair, just like randomly around the party. Come to find out, this is the father, her baby daddy and husband, and he was going up, like it even gets crazier that he was going up to like shake people's hands, and he had a jacket on, and he had a rat up his sleeve.
God.
I swear to God.
That's where the story has to end for me, because I have a phobia of rats.
Yeah, this was like, and that's it. I mean, that's why it's a short story,
Yeah, no,
but it
it's
was
good.
just like, I remember leaving there like, holy shit, money will definitely buy you anything.
So wait,
he bought a wife and kids.
you saw the rat?
Yes,
Oh
he was like
my
poking his head out of it. And
God.
so like he'd go to shake somebody's hand and you'd hear like women would be like,
Maybe he was a nice rat.
No.
well, I'm sure it was a pet if it was up, you know, his sleeve.
You know, we live in New York City. Our mascot is a rat that eats pizza on the subway stairs.
Yeah, I haven't seen a rat yet.
Good. Good.
There's
That's
lots.
good.
There's that.
Yeah.
So anyway, you went to Arizona State?
Yep, Sarah and I are both grad.
Go Sun Devils.
Oh, we both went to St. John's.
Okay.
Look at
Now,
that.
and I listened to the podcast that your first one, but is that where you guys met? How do you guys know each other?
We
Yeah,
met
we met.
at St. John's,
You did?
but our
Okay.
graduate,
All right.
because
Yeah.
I went to the undergrad.
We both went there for undergrad, but Maria went there in Staten Island, and I was in Queens.
Okay.
So,
Even though I was born in Staten Island, but I'm not from there. Kind of. I mean, I'm a little bit from there.
okay. That's a long story. We'll see.
Yeah.
I will tell you the
Tell us
story
how
of my
you
birth
guys met.
Yes.
at another time.
Yes. Tell us how you guys met.
How we met?
Yes.
And so we, Lisa and I both worked in the largest school district in Arizona, Mesa Public Schools. We'll give a little shout out to them. And so Lisa was the lead at the time, and I was one of her minions. And yeah.
Like I'm so evil and diabolical that
Yeah,
I
she
just
was
like
kinda-
put
that-
everyone to work. And
that
I was
is
like picking
also.
up, drinking my wine and cheese while y'all did all the speech therapy.
Yeah, that would be it. We'll save that podcast for another time where I can talk about how she was
So
as a
wait,
supervisor.
did you go to school together? Or
No. Lisa's
So
much
you-
older than I
I'm a
am.
Vietnam vet.
Yeah, Lisa's like got a good 20 years on me. So no, we didn't know then.
Sarah was like from the High School Musical era, and I was in Vietnam.
Right.
So there's a little bit. I know it doesn't look like it because I'm so devastatingly sexy for 45.
Right.
Wow.
Very skinny, giant fake boobs.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
you have to see her.
Spray tan.
In a flannel.
Like this, what are the fake teeth called? Cap teeth.
Veneers.
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 Got a nice
Veneers.
set of veneers. Kind of like There's Something About Mary.
Right.
That what's his name? You never saw There's Something About Mary?
No,
of
I've
course.
seen that, but I just remember the scene with the hair.
Me too. That's what.
I
I mean, I know it was raining, but I don't think there's something else.
Is that
in
not
there.
rain in your hair?
Yeah.
This is rain.
No, we did not know each other in
Okay.
college.
Okay.
We met working together, and kind of, it was so funny. Actually, one of the first times I ever met Lisa, we had talked about all these ideas we had in our life for cool products that we thought would really help, therapists in the field. And Lisa, I'll never forget this conversation. I don't know if you remember it as clearly as I do, because literally it was like the first day we're meeting. I think she just got done interviewing me, and she's like, "Yeah, I've got all of these like cool ideas, and I just always think, like maybe someday." And I was like, "Me too. There's like the things I want to do, and I thought about an app and blah blah blah."
Oh, and that was real. You didn't just say that to get the job.
No,
Okay.
no, like this was, I'd already got the job at that
Oh,
point.
right.
They're
Yeah.
basically to get a job you have to be alive and not a child molester, and that's it. Have a license.
Right, which I understand is very different than it is here.
No, it's pretty much like that here, too,
Literally,
ish.
anyone can get a job in
Yes.
Arizona. We are
Pulse,
desperate.
It's go. You have a pulse. You have a license.
Right.
Great.
Really?
Sign right
Because
here.
They
We
call
were
it the
saying-
mirror test. If you breathe on a mirror and there's fog, then you have the job.
Right. But I understood it to be different here.
It
The
depends.
supervisor said she just interviewed about 50 people, and there's 2 positions available.
Yeah. Well, some places yes, some
Well,
places
because
no.
people are probably desperate to get into the Department of Education,
That's
which
right.
has less slots, but there
Okay.
are several other positions available at this time.
Early
Okay.
intervention. They always need
Or
speech
if you worked at an
therapists.
agency or something like that.
Yeah,
so.
no, I could have said whatever I wanted to to Lisa that day. I would have gotten that job still.
I mean, but she did leave after the interview, and I was like, she sucks. But I guess we're gonna have to take her because we don't have
She's one of the
anyone.
ones that we're just gonna get anyway.
Yeah.
Because she's got an air pulse on the. Oh my god.
But I do remember thinking at the time when we were having this conversation about ideas we've had and things that we want to do, and just that idea of ideas, right?
Right.
Like you know what needs to happen, what's missing in this field, things that you can do, but that action piece, right? And I think even at that time, I will never forget Lisa had said something like, "Yeah, my boyfriend tells me all the time, like, you're so smart and you've got all these good ideas, do something." And I thought that, and I always remember thinking that same thing, like, I think I was meant for more. Like, I think I was supposed to do something with my life. And so 3 years fast forward, something had come up where I had contacted her, and I started talking to her about this idea for progress monitoring. And long story short, it evolved from there, and we actually did something about these ideas.
Well, and I still remember though, like when we first started working together and decided to take it from, we kind of entertained the thought of doing a project for work is how it really started, and then we realized there's no way we could do what we wanted to do on work hours, and then we're like, well, why don't we just create something? And so I am a single mother. I have 2 children, and my life is very structured as far as time because they've got their time slots. There are only certain times that I'm available. So we kind of landed on Friday after school would be like the first kind of for the first next several weeks. That's when we would meet, and so I put it on the calendar for like 3 weeks, and like once it's on my calendar, it's there and it's happening. So Sarah looks back at, I actually would show up. So that first week I showed up, and then the next week she always talks about how like I just thought she was maybe going to cancel. Like I really don't want to do this.
I've been working all week, right? So it's Friday, and all I want to do is like chill, and I'd be like, please don't come. Please don't come. And she'd
and I'd be like, knock on her door.
Yeah. So
we worked in her craft room for a while.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for SLP, I guess, between the idea of it and then the
quick
meeting
from idea to action?
Yeah.
How long? Let's say
and this
did
is
that take?
this is what I was talking about with having an idea and actually having some action. Like when ideas need to be born. So if you've got one, it's come to you for a reason because it really wants to be manifested, right? So you've got to do something about that idea.
I love that. That's so like Sedona.
Yeah, right? Which I swear I'm not like this like super.
She just pulled that out of her vortex.
She's bringing Arizona to us right now.
But I really do think that.
No,
and so when the day that Lisa and I kind of decided that we are going to do something about this, like we've really got a solid idea here that needs to happen, we felt a physical shift in energy, and it was kind of from that moment on we thought like we're going to do this. And so once we made the final decision that it was going to happen, what do you think? Like we got our LLC right away. We started
to get our
doing
LLC
planning and creating the tests.
We started in probably January, and we didn't form our LLC until April, but we were working from January. So it took us about a year to create content.
Right.
And content we always are creating, but like that where we felt like we had enough content to put inside of the software. And then we were doing content even simultaneous to app development. So that is a monster unto itself too.
We're like, build this app. We don't have anything to put in it yet, but build this app. Yeah.
Right. So, and that actually was even more of a push because we were meeting and doing stuff, but then it's like, now that you've forked over a nice chunk of change and you know that they're going to be building something, it's like, well, shit. It's like and I think both of us were kind of procrastinators by nature. We like deadlines. So once we had that out in the world with a date, and we're like, well, we can't have an app with no content in it. And we had content, but it was just like pushed it to kind of that next level of just cranking stuff out.
I have a question for you. Who wrote all the stories?
Actually, Lisa. I will say the majority of the content, some things we did together, some tasks we really broke up, and I did some things and she did some things, but Lisa wrote the stories.
Oh,
she's actually a pretty decent writer.
Judge Judy is my favorite. That's the J story for articulation, so check that out. Judge Judy is in the judicial justjum.
Whoa. All right. I have a question actually, because do you have like a lot of assessments or goals for children like D75 students, kids on the spectrum?
Yes.
So tell us about that, because I know a lot of SLP's caseloads have in the past been mostly autic or whatever, and now it's really changing. Right. It's a lot of autism and
Do you collaborate with Beautiful Speech Life?
She's like our neighbor.
We love Anne.
Shout out.
Yeah,
shout out to Anne Page.
We love ourselves some Anne. So we do have tools for all of those. And again, this came down from, I always had these caseloads of like what Deborah had said about this general ed demographic, right? That are coming because they've got probably some learning disabilities and language needs, but for the most part are not this severe enough to need to be self-contained.
Struggling. They need help. They can't, it's hard for them to, it's unfair. It's to a point where it's unfair.
Right.
But to put them
in a gen ed class.
Exactly. But to put them in a smaller environment would be also equally unfair. Because these are kids who look around and they think, I'm going to follow this lead. So if we put them in a classroom where everybody else is far lower than they are, then they're not going to have any lead to follow.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm a huge supporter of inclusion. We can do a whole podcast on that.
Yes.
But for the most part, I didn't work with very severe populations. In Arizona, in Mesa, we still have self-contained programs. Where they get some inclusion, but for the most part, they're pretty much in these classrooms with students very like themselves. And so I always thought, if I have to go into one of those rooms, like if I end up on a campus with one of those classrooms, I'm screwed.
Right.
Like that is just not an area I feel comfortable with. Yeah, that was not my area of expertise. And so that's kind of where we thought, these need to go beyond just our kind of SLI only students, right? We need something for pragmatics, so we need something for that ASD population, and then functional communication.
Yes.
And those are actually some of my favorites.
Yes, that's one of
tests.
my favorites.
And we talked about this today too, the functional communication assessment and toolkit. What it does is help streamline that thinking of all the things that you need to be considering with that demographic, right? So my biggest thing is that I hate to walk into a meeting with a list of needs and no strengths.
Right,
And when you've got really, really low functioning kids, the needs are pretty easy. You've got a laundry list of things those kids aren't able to do.
Right.
Finding their strengths, though, is a challenge. And so I love those present level assessments that we have built in where I have strength. I can confidently walk into the meeting, share with the parents the things their kids are capable of, what they are doing.
And I will say, we have the present level assessments, which are awesome for that, but then also we're collaborating with someone right now, and if you even want to give us input as well, I want to develop a bunch of rubrics this summer because I think that's a great way, we always talk about like rubrics that even the ones we currently have are for those skills that are hard to capture all the nuances of growth. So usually how we've interpreted that already is in our social language rubrics, or we have a fluency rubric, we have a story retail rubric, but I think with that population, the growth is, gains for them are huge, but they're not big gains always where you see it in all areas. So if we could do some things where we're developing rubrics that look at task analyzing, even the example you used today about localizing to a sound, that starts at one place. You want the ultimate goal is localizing to a sound. They might have different prompts. So I think we could develop some awesome rubrics
like distance,
for that.
right across the room, and some example like that.
So
okay, we'll definitely talk about that for sure.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, we would like to take a very quick glance into the life that you had while you were a student. So we talked about this briefly on our first episode.
I love how Sarah laughs at that. I've only said it 18 times now. It's not even funny.
Well, obviously it's a very good joke.
No, here's the thing. People always think we're sisters, which we kind of crack up about. I think we have similar eye colors, but everything else we're like, I don't think we really look alike.
Well, you can spend so much time together,
looking.
so you take on each other's mannerisms.
Right,
and
maybe.
People told me I've already started looking like my puppy, who's a wrinkly mess. But we're both cute.
Adorable.
Exactly, and we're equally adorable. I think.
I love me some freaky wrinkles.
So me and Deborah were in school together, and I will never forget this story we had.
When was this?
This was 2013.
No, we graduated 2012.
I'm terrible with time.
Okay, so
I graduated in 1997.
Nice.
Well,
OG in the house.
All right.
1997 and 98 were my favorite years for movies.
In third grade?
I know what you did last summer. No, I think I was in fourth.
Oh, Lord, I am so
I know what you
old.
did last summer. Scream, all those. Best year, 1998. 1997's fine, but 98 was my year. But yeah, we were in grad school together, and you know what?
2012?
This was in 2012. That was our second semester of grad school.
Was it? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Anyway, so we had to present on research methods class, and we had to pick.
This professor hated me.
No
Wait,
comment.
I thought you were super charming. And that's what got you through
except
school.
for her. And I've got a long history with this woman, which we will get into next longer episodes.
Can't wait.
Maria does
it's like
too,
a cliffhanger.
but
different
Everybody's got one of those professors.
But this professor tolerated me. I think that she hated a large part of me, but she also appreciated that I was who I was.
I think she thought you were quirky, as she said. So
Quirky.
I like that word. That's a good word.
That's what my mom calls something different.
Yes.
How much, Mom? Do you like this new shirt? Well, it's different, honey.
It's quirky.
You're quirky.
Yeah, it was quirky.
Deborah is definitely quirky, but we had to present. We had to, I don't. What did we know about doing our own research method? I mean, at this point, we all just kind of made stuff up. So Deborah was presenting on what was it? Non-speech.
IOP. My presentation was on point.
Wait,
that is the
say that word again.
The only thing. Can we trade microphones? Because yours has a longer cord. Here, you take this.
I'm trying to eat salami right now.
Well,
my hands are
hands
greasy.
over that salami after I say this one thing. I did all of the work and my presentation was on point. However,
I don't even remember what IOP was or what it was on.
It's IOP is a biofeedback device that determines tongue strength by
I feel like we're in freaking Jeopardy right now.
Yeah.
What is a device that whatever the hell she just said?
Like if you ever want to feel really dumb as an SLP, like go to one of those praxis bowls. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like the graduate students and somebody drills them with questions that are on the praxis.
They do this at the Arizona convention every year, and we went last year. And they may have an open bar. I'm just saying, allegedly. There could have been some drinks involved.
I don't know anything about that.
My answer to everything was vocal folds.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, they didn't listen to me. And that's why they lost.
No, you'll never feel so dumb in your life. We don't even know how we passed the praxis the first time.
That's great.
Well, I know everything about this thing, but what Maria?
Yes. So then she starts her presentations on the PowerPoint, and all the slides were empty. So the best was just like, and that slide is empty too. So so IOP is good, and she just was like winging it, and
That's how you win every presentation.
It starts with an M.
IOP.
It's good.
Oh, it starts with an I.
But the best is that she was like, go on to the next slide, and she'll go, well, look at this one. This one is blank too. And then I don't even know how you were even shocked at that point. You were like, yeah, this one again is blank.
Was there content there at one point that disappeared?
Yeah, so it was a requirement for the course that you had to print out the slides for all of the people in the classroom. So I did it. All of the slides were printed. Everyone had them in front of them. The only person who had no slides was me. But you know what? Because I'm a bad ass.
You are a bad ass.
So all I needed was the title, and then I was like, I remember what I
got
wrote
this.
here.
I got this. I'm charming.
I want to say I had like secondhand embarrassment for her. I was like, oh my god, that's my clinic partner.
That's where you look at your feet.
I do associate
You know that
myself
moment where
with
you're
her.
like, I can't look up.
Yes.
Like, it's just so uncomfortable right now.
That was us this morning. We had some tech glitches this morning where we had no slides, no technology, and we just rolled with it because that's what you got to do.
But what happened was I did it on like the Google Drive of the time of St. John's, and I guess I don't know if I didn't save it, and then I opened it up on the classroom computer, and then it was like the information on the slides was not there. But I had the printed stuff, so I got all the credit. And it was just about like whether or not I was confident in my topic, which I was, and I did speak a lot about it. But I will tell you, we were in a classroom of about 20 girls in research studies, and you know whose presentation everyone paid attention to? Mine.
Deborah Brooks.
Exactly, because everyone was horrified.
Yes.
They were like, if that was me, I would die. They were like,
What do you mean no slides? They told us we had to have slides. I don't get why she doesn't have slides. And she's still talking.
But yeah, every slide was empty. But the title was there. I was just the title.
I mean, we pulled it off. We pulled it off. So you guys met at ASHA, by the way. I'm a little jealous because I haven't been to ASHA yet.
Well, you're going in November?
Yes.
We'll be
Boston.
there.
I'm
and
so
we'll hook
excited.
you guys up with some t-shirts.
Yes.
Because we make some fun t-shirts.
Yes, you do.
Can SLPs go to the OT conference too? Because that one's in NOLA in April.
We went there last summer. They had this summer conference. ASHA had their summer conference last year, and we had the best time because Sara is one of these people that anytime we go anywhere, she maps out like a million amazing things to do.
Love
so we did a
that.
gator, or like we actually held an alligator.
That's a little scary.
Nice.
It's real.
Freaking awesome.
I went to New Orleans because, once again, Mike is a comedian, and it was his Comedy Central half-hour special, and it was the funnest weekends I've ever had. Aside, Arizona was super cool, but
New Orleans, seriously, and that's
So
my daughter
great.
my oldest daughter is going to be a senior next year and is already looking at colleges, and she wants to go to Tulane. I'm like, yep.
do it.
Do it.
My friend
Mom's gonna come
went
visit.
there, and
I'll
he's,
pledge
like,
with you.
Super smart, and like he's been tremendously successful since then. So from all of my knowledge, I would say do it.
Yeah, we actually met somebody on the plane on the ride here that said his daughter just graduated with a degree in education, I think,
yeah.
and said that it's a really great school, good, great experience for her, great education.
Great.
So.
All right, we got 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left in this, and then the
Pressure.
what we end on. First, we end on our tips and tricks.
Yes.
And I'm gonna pass the mic. Who wants to do their first tip or trick? Now, this is something that we like to give to
I got
our
one too.
listeners. It's something that you can use tomorrow.
Okay.
It's not something you have to print. It's not something that you have to buy. It's not something that you have to create. It's just something that you can do in the moment. And I'll go first, I think, maybe as an example. So my favorite thing to do with kids is on your head. And then what that is to me
Hair?
is that, there's something on my head. So, like, if a kid's not looking at me, I'll be like, oh, there's a duck on my head. And they're like, what? And I'm like, tricked ya. Now say, and then
That's amazing.
yeah. So I'll always say there's something on my head, even though it's not there, and then I'll just be like, tricked ya, not like I'm a liar.
I pretend to put stuff on my head, like, oh, does it go here? And then they're like, no. And then they're always like, yes. I'm like, no, it really doesn't. So let's move on.
Right.
Failed.
Everyone's interested in
Like
things
our
on your head.
entire job is just trickery.
Yes.
We're like witches.
It's a
Only
clinical
with your
term.
trickery, you
It's
sound like Dane Cook.
It's sabotage. No, sabotage is a tried and true clinical technique.
Research does support
There's
that.
Everything. There's anything we say, we're just going to follow with. There's research for that.
Yes. EBT.
I'm wickedly good looking. There's research for that.
Right.
I'm so smart. There's research for that.
We're going to progress monitor that.
There's research for that.
on your toolkit.
That's right. Toolkit. There's research for that.
I'll go on my tip and trick. I just kind of top of my head thought of it yesterday. I was doing sequencing the little, like, you know, we all have the little tiles, and the student wasn't getting it, and I was like, oh my god. I just kept pointing to the pictures, and I was like, let me get post-its. So I got 4 post-its, and I wrote first, and then I did next, and I drew a little arrow, and then 2 arrows, and then last, and I drew a little box, and I kind of copied the board maker symbols. Like, listen, I didn't have time to print the board maker symbols and laminate them.
Don't
made them
reinvent the wheel,
myself.
sister.
Yeah. So I mean, I felt like it worked well, and it also helped her to narrate the story, like first, next, and following them. So it helped not only with organization and sequencing, but also to retell it more organized.
I
like it.
that.
Thank
Post
you.
it.
And who doesn't
and I
like
love
post-its?
Yeah,
I
see,
love
I love post-its.
They're
They come
everywhere.
in all the colors. They're sticky.
Yeah.
I just like sticking notes places. Like, don't touch this. Wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Where's my charger?
Nice dress, Mike.
And
Okay.
then your tips and tricks.
Well, so we've been talking a lot this week just about, you know, super glamorous topics like writing IEPs and progress monitoring and data collection.
Great.
And one of my favorite tips that I don't think that I implemented well early in my years was to do a quick little lesson plan and review your notes in the moment when it's fresh. Because if you are working with a group of students and you don't see them again until next week, and then you're trying to figure out what to do with them, like even the next day, like my brain is so far removed from that group by the next day. So in that moment, like right as they're leaving before the next group comes in, kind of take a moment to stop and reflect on what just happened, what do you need to pick up on the next week, and write that down.
One sentence, just like
Literally, it does not.
possessives.
Right, and here's the thing too. I think
irregular past tense.
seriously,
Something, just like one little.
Just one word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as SLPs we're super wordy and we feel like we have to write a novel. Bullet point that shit out. Like just get it out while it's fresh and relevant. So that's my tip.
That's also following the SOAP note, right?
Yeah.
That P and plan.
That's exactly right. And that's a part missing in the schools.
Just gonna
we
wing
forget
that
about
back.
that once we get into the schools. You know, we're so
well, real
focused.
life hits you, and
Yeah.
so then a lot of shit you
gotta
forget.
have that P. Absolutely.
You gotta pee.
I always
Just
just
realized what I said.
Future sessions will target improving phonemic awareness, something like that.
Something.
If somebody can't
Right.
spell or anything, or
Even like
identify
left
sounds
off
and
on
words.
page 74, and next week when I
Right.
target,
Right, just
work,
something
pick up
down.
on vocabulary or anything, like it just has to be relevant to what you did while it's fresh, because inevitably that even when that next group comes in, it's almost too late.
Yeah, but what you're saying sounds so simple, but in actuality, people are so burdened by the idea that they have to have this like perfect note, that they write the note for the sake of the requirements, which has zero relevance for them as a clinician.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking like so and so did this and this, like whatever you have to write based on like your job, just write down something for you.
Yeah.
Instead of for everyone else. Do it for you.
No, we always say it's for the children.
Yeah.
Well, you have to do this hand movement where you kind of do like a pageant wave, because everybody, like, you know, talks about all the work that we do, and we just say, what? It's for the children.
Yeah, it's for the children.
So, and that was a perfect segue. My tip would be about data, because I absolutely agree with what you just said. We should not be taking data because Medicaid billing requires it, or because the supervisor told us we have to. It needs to be relevant, and it needs to work for you. I am a huge believer of I only take that quantitative data, so that objective data where you need kind of the score, the accuracy, at the beginning of a session. And then I do not take data again for the rest of the session unless it's that qualitative, anecdotal information that's going to help guide therapy for future events.
Yes.
So get it over with. Do it at the beginning. Don't do it again.
I do that.
Yes, yeah. Yep. Have the confidence within yourself to believe that you are doing everything in the best interest of the individual ahead of you, and then you won't feel like you're
100%.
doing something wrong.
No, this is all about making sure that you're providing the best services for that student.
Because if you keep telling yourself everything you're doing is not good enough, your mind is going to believe everything that you tell it. So you're going to torture yourself. And I think
That's our quote, I think. That's where we're going to end it. Your mind will believe everything you tell it. And I think you guys had such an inspirational story, too, of how you started SLP Toolkit. And, I'm sure
we all strive to be you.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes aren't as glamorous as they look.
So,
No, they actually are. I think we get asked sometimes, like, do we really get along? We're like, yeah, it's kind of like what you see
Not
is
really.
kind of what happens.
Every time, like, they came to my apartment, and then, like, the first one had to pee, and then the second one was like,
I was like, I can't drink any wine right now. It gives me a migraine, so go get me some beer.
You guys, this has been a real pleasure. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
So fun.
Thank you for coming out to Brooklyn to chat with us and wine and cheese.
Anytime.
And thank you to our listeners.
ciao.
Later, dude.
Bye.
Every time I can't end it.